Hey everyone, you may have seen over the last handful of months some headlines about a lawsuit involving the National Association of Realtors. And out of that lawsuit came a settlement, which is actually going to have some changes, more or less, to how real estate operates moving forward. And I've been pretty quiet about this topic just because for a while there, seemingly everywhere you looked, online, news channels, there was always a headline with somebody having a take and an opinion about this. Unfortunately, a lot of it was misinformation, but I do feel like it's important for you guys to get to hear my take on it and how I believe it affects business and how I think it'll affect the buyer and seller experience moving forward. So this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. If it's not for you, you can go on to the next one. But if it is something that interests you, stick with me and I want to tell you a little bit about this lawsuit, the settlement, and then what you can expect moving forward in this new world as a home buyer or home seller. There was a court case involving the National Association of Realtors, and just to summarize a very 30,000-foot brief overview, it was intended to bring about more clarity about how realtors earn a commission. So, spoiler alert, I make an income. I know, shocker. But that was what it was intended to provide, more clarity about how realtors earn a commission. And I think that's wonderful. In fact, most of the outcomes as a result of the settlement, I think are fantastic. And people ask me all the time, how's this settlement going to affect your business? You have to do things differently. And most of the time I tell them it's not really going to affect it. There are a couple of nuanced procedural changes that I'll have to do. But for the most part, everything that they're asking of us, I was already doing as part of my business practice because it was actually Virginia state law. Now the rest of the country is just catching up to where we as Virginia realtors have been supposed to be performing this entire time. Now, one of the great outcomes from this is there is going to be a high level of scrutiny and accountability for agents to actually do those things. And I'll tell you, I have witnessed a lot of agents in Virginia not acting in accordance with the laws and how we're supposed to go about things. Even though I always have and will continue to do so as a business practice, I've witnessed that. And this is going to bring greater accountability for those agents, which I think is wonderful for the end buyers and the end sellers, the people on the other side of the table. So I'll talk about what the specifics are here in a moment, but there was a huge problem for me that came about from this. And honestly, it wasn't with the settlement or the do's and the don'ts that came from it. The problem that I had was all of the misinformation and all of the false headlines that came about from this settlement. It honestly has created so much confusion for your everyday people, buyers and sellers that are out there, because we even have people like the President of the United States wrongly telling the country about changes. Here, watch this clip real quick.
In addition, last week, the National Association of Realtors agreed for the first time that Americans can negotiate lower commissions when they buy or sell their home.
So there you have the President of the United States saying, hey, this wonderful thing that has happened under my tenure, for the first time ever, real estate commissions are negotiable. And that is just wrong. That is flat out wrong. They have always been negotiable. You as a buyer, you as a seller have always been able to negotiate commissions that are included for the real estate agents who are serving you. In fact, the National Association of Realtors president came out with this statement addressing President Biden's inaccurate statement. He said, while the National Association of Realtors appreciates President Biden's continued focus on the affordable housing crisis, the president unfortunately repeated incorrect claims that the recently announced settlement agreement allows Americans to negotiate commissions for the first time. Commissions were already negotiable before this resolution was reached and will continue to be negotiable as they always have been. Now, please hear me sincerely say this is not a political statement that I'm making one way or another about a particular politician or a particular party. Let's set that aside for a second. I'm simply making the point of saying the biggest problem that has come out of this National Association of Realtors settlement is the confusion that it has created for everyday Americans because there is misinformation and false headlines spewing all over the place. So let me break down for you what you can experience in practice as a seller or as a buyer under these new guidelines. Number one, commissions are going to remain negotiable, and they always have been negotiable. Like I said, they should be negotiable. A person who is receiving a service ought to be able to negotiate what they are going to compensate for that service. Makes sense. Number two, and this is a big one procedurally for us, is sellers can no longer advertise on the MLS if they are offering to pay a commission to the buyer's agent. So a little bit of backstory here. Oftentimes sellers choose to pay for the buyer's agent because they know it's in their best interest. It allows buyers to come. More buyers means more offers. More offers means better terms, better pricing for a seller, means more money in their pocket at the end of the day. That's the ideology behind it. And so now they cannot advertise that on the website that realtors use to go find all these available homes. You can still post at other places. You just can't advertise in that one specific spot. So for me as a realtor, all it does is it adds a step in my process where I got to pick up the phone, I got to call the other agent and see if they're offering a buyer's agent commission. Like I said, not a huge deal so long as everyone communicates well. So again, just more of a procedural thing. The third thing is that buyers will now be required to sign a representation agreement with their realtor before they ever get to step foot into a home that they want to see. Now, I say now they are going to be required to do this because this is going out across the country, but in Virginia, this has always been the case. Virginia law has always required a realtor and their buyer client to sign a representation agreement before they can tour a property, before the agent can give any significant advice or guidance to that client. It's always been required. A lot of agents have not followed the letter of the law in this area. And I love that now there's going to be a greater accountability holding them to the standard that they already should have been doing. So again, nothing really changes other than we got some interesting headlines to read. If you have questions, let me know. I'd love to answer them and talk with you about it.